Alright, so this video is going to show you how to use LoggerPro to analyze a video of motion. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you have access to your video. So whatever video you're going to use, whether it's your boat rolling or someone else's boat, excuse me, not rolling, floating, you need to save it somewhere that you can get to it, either the desktop or in a folder, somewhere where you know how to access it. If you haven't done that, push pause on the video, go save it to your desktop, and then come back. Okay, so now that you've got that saved, we're going to go ahead and open up LoggerPro. When you open up LoggerPro, it's going to look like this. It's got a blank data set chart over here and a blank graph, and it's just waiting for the data. And so what we're going to do is we're going to insert a movie. So we're going to go up here and click on Insert, and we're going to come down here and do Movie. Now you have to go back to that video wherever you saved it. I saved mine on the desktop because I knew exactly where it would be. Yours may be in a folder. Wherever it is, go find that video, click on it, and insert it. So take a minute right now, pause the video, go do that, make sure that you have your video uploaded. When you've got it like this, then you can come back. Okay, so now we've got our video uploaded into LoggerPro, and this is where it gets pretty slick because it starts to graph all this stuff for us. So what we need to do is first we need to push this little button right here with the red dot that says Enable and Disable Video Analysis. Let's enable it, and that's going to give us these little buttons over here. The first one we're going to use is this little ruler right here. It says Set Scale, and all that does is it tells this picture how long is this? Is this a foot? Is this a yard? Is this a mile? Is it, what is it? So we have to set the scale for the video because you could use a wide angle lens or a very up close shot. So we need to tell the screen what it is. So we'll click on this, then we'll come into our video and we'll measure something that we know. My ball is going to roll across here, but the height that I know is the height of this little shelf right here, and I know that this shelf, so I'm going to click and then drag down to the bottom, and it's going to get my little green line there, and I know that that shelf right there is 7 inches. So I'm going to type in 7, and as soon as I put the green line on there, this box showed up. I didn't have to click on anything, it just pops up. So I'm going to go 7. I'm going to make sure that I change this to inches, and so now the screen's going to say, okay, this little green line is 7 inches. Anytime anything moves this far, whether it's this way, whatever direction it moves, whenever it goes this far across the screen, that equals 7 inches. And that's what we call setting the scale of the video. So take a second and do that if you haven't done so already. Alright, next thing we need to do is we need to get this ball in the movie so we can start to analyze it. So I'm going to hit play here. There comes the ball. So I'm going to stop it. Clicking on this little thing right here allows me to rewind the video and fast forward. I'm going to rewind, that's not us, don't leave, the ball until it just starts to come into the screen. And notice it's not the beginning of the video. All this is kind of trash, really. All we're interested in is when the ball actually rolls across the screen. Notice my reference is moved, but that's okay because the screen still knows this distance is 7 inches. So now I'm going to set my X and Y axis. I'm going to go up here to where it says Set Origin. I'm going to click on that, and that gives me now an X and Y axis. I'm going to pick some spot on the ball that's easy to identify. I could pick the middle of the ball, but sometimes I might click here, sometimes here, sometimes here. So I'm going to click the very front edge of the ball, halfway up, and I'm going to click. Notice that sets my X and my Y axis. If it's not perfectly in line with where the ball is going to roll, then I can click on this yellow dot right here. If I click and drag, it lets me rotate this axis to however that ball is moving. This one was pretty close, so I'm going to just move it back right there, and I'm going to leave it here. Take a second and do that. Alright, now that you got that finished, now we can start setting our data points. So, this right here, add point. No, I don't want to do that. Sorry about that. I'm going to click on this little add point right here, and I'm going to start to add my data points. Each data point is going to be at the very front of this ball, and when I right now the mouse is just hovering over it. When I click now, it's going to set that data point. So watch what happens here. I clicked it, and a couple things happened. One, it advanced the frame. Notice the ball moved. And so it went to the next frame. As soon as I clicked there, it advanced to the next frame for me. It also came over here, and it put some data in our data chart. And so if you see here, at time equals 1.4 seconds. So at time 1.4 seconds, the X position was 0, and my Y position was also 0. So when I put the point here, it automatically throws it in the data chart. And if we could scoot this puppy over, we can see that it plotted that point on the graph. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plot a couple points here. I'm going to come back to the front of the ball, and I'm going to add a point, and it advances again. Add a point, it advances again. Now some of your boats don't move too fast, so here's what I suggest. That you advance a couple frames. So instead of going just to the next frame, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go 5 frames and put a data point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames and put a data point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames and put a data point. And notice as I'm putting more points in here, they're loading over here and they're also plotting on the graph. So take a couple minutes and do that. I'll be sitting back here doing it as well. So I'll let you know before I change so you can actually just let the video go. It's like we're plotting these points together, except I'm doing this rolling ball and you're doing a boat. It's like we're in the same room, but we're not. I'm at school. You're at home. There's proof that I'm at school. Okay, I've got my points. If you don't have your points, go back to the video, hit pause, finish up all your points, and then come back. So hit pause if you aren't finished with your points. Okay, now that you got all your points put in, we now see we've got a bunch of points on our chart over here, and we also have a bunch of points across our screen. Really, we're done with the video now. We've gathered all the data that we needed to gather, so we don't really need that anymore. I'm going to click on the graph just to get the movie out of there. If you want that movie back, just shrink, come up here to the corner, shrink this down, and you can pull that video back to the front. Okay, but I don't need it right now, so I'm just going to focus on my graph. Alright, so you see a couple of things here. We see the Y is plotted in blue and the X is plotted in red. This is making sense, right? Because how does our position in the Y direction change? As it goes, the ball rolls across the screen, really it doesn't go up or down. It basically stays right on that axis. So that's stays on the 0. As time progresses, the Y stays the same. Now, as time progresses, though, the X changes. It goes a little bit each time. And so this goes down. We talked about this a little bit in class. This negative slope. Basically, all this is telling us, remember, positives and negatives just tell us direction. So if it's a negative slope, that means that it's moving to the left or it's moving down. It doesn't mean slow or fast. It just means moving left or moving down. In this case, you could probably answer, the ball is moving to the left. The other thing that we notice is this line is basically linear, meaning it basically makes a straight line. And that tells us a lot, right? Because the slope of this line, as we've talked about, the slope of a position versus time graph tells us the velocity. If this is a straight constant slope, that means it's a straight constant velocity. So we can analyze these data points to figure out what the velocity of this thing is. Here's how you do it. You come up here to analyze, then you come down to linear fit, and we want to do a linear fit on the X, and we hit OK. Do that now if you haven't done it already. Just go analyze, linear fit, X. Hit pause if you're not finished. Alright, now that you got the linear fit in there, you can see how this point out here is kind of an outlier, right? It doesn't fit on the line. Most of the rest of them fit basically on this line, and so we call this a best fit line. And it gives us our y equals mx plus b. X is our y in this case because it's moving across the screen. M is our slope. X is on the x-axis is our time, and b is the y-intercept. M is our slope, and if you notice here, this thing is rolling at 20.6 inches per second. Don't show this again. Okay. 20.6 inches per second. And so the speed of that ball as it rolls across the screen is 20.6 inches per second. The velocity is negative 20.6 inches per second because that means it's moving to the left. And so there we have the velocity of this ball as it rolls across the screen. Just to drive this point home, let's come up here and let's do analyze linear fit of the y. And what do you think the slope is going to be, or what do you think the velocity is going to be in the y dimension or in the y direction? Answer that out loud. Say it. Say it out loud. Okay. What do you think it is? I hope that you said 0. And look, it is. It's pretty close to 0. It says 0.8 inches per second. That's probably because of this puppy right here. We bring it back in here. Look how much it comes down. It goes to 0.25 inches per second. That's not very much. The velocity that it has is probably because of old shaky hands back here holding the camera and moving up and down as the ball rolls across the screen. So that's how you do a linear fit or a video analysis of an object moving. If you have any questions about this, you can always rewind, rewatch, and retry. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Toodles.